On today's video, we're going to tell you about 10 things that might surprise you if you're buying a house in North Carolina. Hello everyone, this is Chris Morton, real estate broker with the Morton Bradbury Real Estate Group. And so the first thing that's going to surprise you about buying a house in North Carolina is that by and large, the state is pretty rural. We're an agricultural state. Yes, there are definitely some big towns and big cities in the state, but by and large, if you're just out in the countryside, you're going to find just that, countryside. This is really a great thing because it gives the state a lot of its character. We're not just sort of this homogenous big city, big city, big city atmosphere here. There's lots of character, lots of characters, and it definitely makes things interesting if you're considering moving to a quieter part of the state, or at the very least, if you buy in a big city and you want to go have a very relaxing weekend, you can definitely go to one of the small towns in North Carolina and have that. And along those lines, one of the things that really surprises people about this rural atmosphere is they plan on moving to one of the big cities, like say Raleigh. My team has lots of clients who want to come to Raleigh. They end up deciding to move to one of the smaller suburbs around Raleigh, and they're really surprised that a lot of the land that you see around those suburban areas is farmland. Well, again, we're an agricultural state. We've been an agricultural state since before we were a colony. So that means a lot of what you see is going to be farmland. Just something you need to be prepared for. And the other part of that, the other aspect of that on a statewide basis is all of the cities are not clumped together. You're going to have a lot of travel between the major areas. 2 hours from Raleigh to Wilmington, almost 3 hours from Raleigh to Charlotte, and you can imagine on like that. Just be prepared that if you're moving to North Carolina, you're not moving to one big homogeneous giant city. You're moving to an area that's going to have a lot of rural atmosphere to it. The next thing that might surprise you about buying a house in North Carolina, missing sidewalks. Although we have a good number of neighborhoods, especially inside the cities, that have sidewalks, just be prepared that there's going to be a lot of neighborhoods around where there are no sidewalks. You're just having the road and then grass. This is in the rural areas we talked about a second ago, but you also could find it in the bigger cities. I know I've been out showing $1 million plus properties to folks that are coming into our area, and they're surprised that they're not getting the sidewalk, curb and gutter as we call it, in $1 million plus neighborhoods necessarily. Now, again, plenty of neighborhoods do have sidewalks, but know that if that is a big issue for you, you want to let your agent know that, to be on the lookout for neighborhoods that have sidewalks, because not all of North Carolina has sidewalks. The next thing that might surprise you about buying a house in North Carolina, there's not that many basements. So yes, as you move from, say, Raleigh towards the mountains, it's much more likely that you're going to find a basement. Although, truth be told, in Raleigh, you're only looking at about 7% of the properties that have basements. But certainly from Raleigh to the ocean, that is mostly a sandy soil that you are not going to find any basements in. So just be prepared if you have to have a basement and you're moving to, say, Raleigh, you need to kind of hunt and peck to find something. Granted, if you're moving to, say, Winston-Salem, more of a chance of it. And then certainly Asheville, Boone, or any of the mountain towns, you're definitely going to have an opportunity to find a basement. Wilmington, Jacksonville, New Bern, Morehead City on the coast, not so much. You're not going to find those basements. We do, however, have what I like to call the basement in the sky. That is a bonus room. Lots of houses in North Carolina have second floor or third floor bonus rooms that kind of take the place of that basement. The next thing you need to prepare yourself for if you're planning on buying a house in North Carolina is the relatively low property taxes. But first, if you're planning to move to North Carolina, our team would be happy to help. You can scan the code on the screen right now, or you can find our contact information below. We'll be happy to help get things started for you. So now back to those low property taxes we talked about. One of the mistakes people make when they move to North Carolina is that they budget for their $10,000, $20,000, $100,000, $1 million per year tax bill that they have in New York, California, yada, 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 yada. That's not a thing in North Carolina. By and large, in North Carolina, you're looking at somewhere around 1% in property taxes you pay per year. So For a $300,000 house, you're looking at $3,000. Now, granted, this 1% number I'm giving you is pretty much a statewide average. There's some areas where it's much, much lower than that. Areas like Chapel Hill and Durham, you're looking at like 1.2%. So it can vary, but that just kind of gives you a good frame of reference that you're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars a year you've got to pay in property taxes. The next thing that might surprise you when buying a house in North Carolina is in North Carolina, we have a due diligence fee. This, as we've talked about many times on this channel, is a fee you pay directly to the seller. It's sort of an option fee to give you the ability to evaluate the house, do inspections, decide if you really want to own that house. If you do want to own that house and make it your forever home or your couple year home, you can know that that money, that due diligence money that you've paid to the seller, is going to go towards your down payment. However, if you decide not to buy the house, seller gets to keep your money. You have to go find another house and they have to find another buyer. Now, this is a statewide fee, statewide program that we have. We're only one of a couple states that do this. That due diligence fee is completely flexible. It can be no dollars, it can be $1. We've seen it be on average in the Raleigh area somewhere between $5,000, and during the hot and heavy crazy days back a couple of years ago, that number got to $100,000. So as you can imagine, if you're putting $100,000 due diligence down on a house, it's pretty likely you're not going to be getting out of that transaction. So people had to put that much money down to win the house when they were in a multiple offer situation. Luckily, things have settled down a little bit. We're still seeing the $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 range, but luckily we're not seeing the $100,000 range anymore. The next thing that might surprise you when buying a house in North Carolina is we have HOAs, home owners associations, in a good bit of the state. Now, before you get panicked and upset about it, and we have lots of clients who beg us to find them houses that do not have HOAs, please know in North Carolina, our HOA fees in general are pretty low. If you are in a detached single family home type neighborhood, your HOA dues are anywhere between $50, $30 a month to maybe $200 a month. Now, that's certainly going to be some outliers that you have HOAs that are zero, even though they have an HOA, or 500, even though they have an HOA with a single family home. But by and large, it's not a crazy amount of money. For a condominium or a townhome project where they have maintenance of the exterior, that number might get up. I've seen $350 a month HOAs in that scenario, but we're not talking $2,000 and $3,000 a month like you'd find in South Florida or New York or places like that. So be prepared that HOAs do not cost an arm and a leg, just like property taxes don't cost an arm and a leg in North Carolina. And also be prepared that those HOAs are not going to micromanage you and tell you how to paint the interior of your house. That's not what they're there for. They're there to maintain the exterior atmosphere of the neighborhood to keep property values high, but they're not going to be busybodies bothering you to death. Also, bear in mind that not every neighborhood, not every town in North Carolina has HOAs. It is a thing. It's definitely a thing in the bigger cities like Charlotte and Raleigh and the suburbs of both, and Winston-Salem and Greensboro. But know that like smaller towns that you're going to have neighborhoods in, they're probably going to be loosely organized and not have an HOA. But bottom line, know that HOA is not something you need to be afraid of if you're buying a home in North Carolina. The next thing that might surprise you is when you're buying a home in North Carolina, we don't have title companies. We get people from all over the country, all over the world, asking my team and myself to help them buy a house. And one of the first questions they ask is, who's the title company? Who we go through to get the title work done? Well, in North Carolina, it's a little different. We're an attorney state. That means the attorney does all the title work. They work with a title company to get everything done. And so you're having a contact with a paralegal, not with a title company. That sounds like it would cost more money than title companies, but based on what I've seen around, title companies cost $3,000, $4,000, attorneys cost $900, something in that range, and then the title work is an additional $500 for the insurance policy. So know that there's not title companies. Be prepared that you're going to be working with an attorney. The next thing that might surprise you about moving to North Carolina is you can't always get a deal. So people move all the time to the big cities, the Raleighs, Charlottes, Carys, Greensboros, Winston-Salem, Wilmington, and they expect they're going to be able to come in and take advantage of a seller and get a deal, because maybe their market where they're from is not as hot as it used to be. So they transfer that concept and they think they're going to come down to North Carolina and get that smoking hot, amazing deal on a home. At the time that we're making this video, and it's been this way for the last 4 or 5 years, that's just not the case. There's no smoking hot deals in North Carolina. We are consistently ranking at the very, very top of all of these lists for best states to move to. And so in general, in North Carolina, we're just not seeing desperate sellers. First off, inventory levels statewide have remained very, very low. That means there's not this glut of inventory on the market that would cause a seller to have multiple homes to compete against. And so therefore, most sellers are able to list their home for sale and wait a few days, a few weeks, and then get their home sold. They're not having to slash the prices to get out. We luckily, knock on wood, are not seeing a lot of foreclosures in our state. Therefore, that's not putting any downward pressure on prices. So know that because supply is so low statewide, unlikely you're going to get a deal on a home. So our advice, if you're planning on looking for the deal, is to find yourself a fixer-upper. People still in our area want move-in ready homes. They don't want to hassle with the idea of repainting, putting in new countertops, ripping out bathrooms and kitchens. Most people don't want to do that. So if you're able to do that and put in a little sweat equity, it's possible you're going to find a home that's been on the market a while that no one else can see past all of the chartreuse countertops, whatever, and you're therefore going to be able to get that deal, snap it up, redo the countertops, redo the cabinets, whatever, and make your dream home out of this deal. The next thing that might surprise you in North Carolina is screened in porches are very, very popular. This is a thing that not all homes have, but if you've lived here any appreciable amount of time, you know in North Carolina we have bugs, mosquitoes, flies, and therefore to be able to enjoy the outside, you're gonna want a screened in porch. That's where you have an overhang with screened on 3 sides, 2 sides. It allows you to use that space and be outside and get fresh air during most of the year. There's very little period of the year that you really aren't able to use a screen-in porch. That would be like the coldest 2 days of the year and the hottest 2 days of the year. I'm joking, you're probably looking at a month and a month. But by and large, in the summer, in the evenings, even when it's like 95 as it's been recently, during the day, it cools off to about 80, 75 at night, that you're able to enjoy sitting out on your screen-in porch and listening to crickets or whatever. It's really, really a good thing. So highly recommended. If you aren't able to buy a house that has a screen-in porch, definitely try to buy a house that you can convert and put on a screen-in porch. It will definitely be worth the money, definitely some space that you would enjoy. But again, that's something that surprises a lot of people. Most people, they have like lanais or no porch at all. They don't see the need because their weather is so temperate, I guess, that they don't have bugs. We have bugs here. Just be prepared for it. The next thing that might surprise you about buying a home in North Carolina is we have a lot of new construction. If you're moving from an area that's mostly built out, Long Island, let's say, and it's very, very difficult to find new construction property, you might be surprised moving to North Carolina, there's still a lot of building going on. Even in the bigger cities like Raleigh and Charlotte, you're still seeing building going on. Now, we will say that if you are looking for something less than $1 million in Raleigh and Charlotte, you may very well need to look in some of the suburbs. Like in Raleigh, you would look in Garner, Clayton, Fuquay, Varina, Youngsville, Franklinton, possibly Wake Forest. Know that you may have to drive a little further out to get that new construction if that's what you want. But by and large, if you are hoping for new construction, North Carolina is definitely a state to move to, because we're a state that is fast growing. And because we have so many people moving in, we don't have the inventory of existing homes that would allow us to handle that supply of people coming in. Our builders have to be building, and they're building furiously to accommodate all of the newcomers that are moving in. So if you're considering a move either into or out of North Carolina, my real estate team and I would love to be your agents of choice. You can click on the QR code, give us a call at the number below, email us at hello@mortonbradbury.com, or click on the link in the description. We'll be happy to help you out and get things started. Check out this video. We think you're really going to like this one as well. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.